you can convey the sheer horror of that situation, and other people in retrospect find it funny because at least you survived.
What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guest is an entrepreneur, media strategist, international team leader, and author. With over 20 years of experience, he has built and sustained global teams and partnerships. He brings a strong background in video game technology, visual media, and global streaming platforms. At his current company, he merges travel, culture, and adventure programming within a global streaming television that reaches audiences worldwide. He's the Chief Operating Officer of Media at Journey TV through NextTrip. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Ian Sharpe. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you for having me. I hope the crowd has gone suitably wild.
The crowd is going insanely wild on this side of the pond. I hear them screaming. Where are you right now?
I'm in Victoria, BC, so I am on the same.
Oh, you are on this side of the pond.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The accent confuses everyone, but we've been here long enough for my children to be born Canadian. And,
love it.
I just live in a little bubble of Englishness, watching the BBC, reading the Guardian newspaper, and not going outside much.
Well, that's a shame because you have a beautiful outside environment there in BC, and I'm in BC at least twice a year, and I love it. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I do. I jest because it is a wonderful place, and here on the island, you've got orcas cresting the waves, just moments away. So it's big trees and big lungfuls of oxygen.
Well, I love it, and maybe it's just because you're working too hard, growing your company and not getting outside, which I also appreciate as well. But one of the reasons why I'm so excited to have you on is, I've been doing this podcast for 4 years now. And so I've created this platform within our niche of travel and hospitality design and hospitality. And I always think about what's next. And what I've settled on for now is, aside from creating other content around this, is doing these smaller, impactful, I'm calling them symposiums, dinners in different cities. And that's kind of what works for me right now. And I thoroughly enjoy it. And I love that interpersonal connection. What I'm really intrigued with you about is on TV, if people remember what TV was, we still have TV. Many of us still pay for cable. The Travel Channel. It was there. We would get inspired and kind of see cool places. But now it's just like all haunted houses and weird shit. Like, I don't understand how it's called the Travel Channel. And it's just like a bunch of jump scare programming. But you have created, and I don't want to tell the story of what you've created, but you've created a travel channel that impacts everyone, explores the world, maybe can even book stuff. So tell us where the TV situation went and what we have to look forward to in the future. Actually, but before you do that, tell me how you define hospitality.
Defining hospitality. So I'm going to define hospitality as turning strangers into friends. Now, the reason that's my definition is I've gone etymological, right? Because we know that the word hospitality, has got Latin roots, and all of the words like host and hospital, all of those words like guest, all come from a very similar root. And there was this, you mentioned in your intro about some of the things I've done. I've written a whole bunch of alternative history novels, but one of the things that you do as you research that social fabric, that the stuff that glued societies together in ancient times, is because hospitality was this sacred duty, and it was all about welcoming guests from other lands, from faraway places, and you were honor bound to do right by them and to give them food and to send them on their way into safety with a full belly and a full heart. So that's what we talk when I'm talking about defining hospitality. That's what I go for, and that's something then we carry on into the TV station journey. So journey is what we were talking about there. It's our replacement for the travel channel of old. We want to step into those shoes. We want to inherit that mantle, and we want to create a TV channel that's all about embracing hospitality, about embracing cultures and showcasing them, and continuing to build upon that social fabric of that sacred duty, and embracing this beautiful blue-green pearl upon which we live, and making sure that all corners of the globe are welcoming.
Okay, so in that, you're creating this intersection of travel, technology, commerce, media, but also bringing people together. How did you decide to come after that intersection? Like, what was the thought thinking, and like, what's the dream state of Journey?
So how did we come by that? So NextTrip is the company, NASDAQ company that owns Journey and acquired Journey, and is in the process of acquiring and rolling out other channels worldwide. I'll come back to that in a bit. But the goal was always to find that connective tissue between storytelling and booking. We call it inspiration to itinerary. And here's the reason why, is that I think that attribution and driving bookings, the value of tourism as a global vector for driving economies, right? I mean, if you turned tourism into a country, I think it would be the third largest country in terms of GDP, right? So it's a huge industry. But the business of travel doesn't necessarily convert as easily as you might think, right? People dream, people are inspired, people do 5-year plans, they have their bucket list, they're putting together the place they really want to go and see, family reunions or sporting pilgrimages, all of that kind of thing, right? There's people are always drawn to travel, but the people who are in the business of travel can't link that storytelling, that pictures in the mind, that dream destination with the actual booking and the ROI that flows from it. So that's what we've set out to do. Whether you call it inspiration to itinerary or content to commerce. When I came to NextTrip, it was to propose to them the idea that you take the learnings that I had from the video games industry and apply them into the travel space. And so it's then all about creating calls to action. It's all about some kind of measurability. It's all about attribution, and it's trying to create the same kind of lifetime value from our digital properties in NextTrip and the video footage that hoteliers and DMOs create, and turn it into something that's actionable.
So at the beginning, you mentioned that you've written novels of alternate history, which is super fun. So and also in the video game, your video game experience. But my sense from you is that you are a storyteller at heart, right? And but I also feel like that word storyteller is very often overused these days too. But with you, I definitely feel that just in my interactions with you. And how do you take that idea of storytelling and creating content and then driving that to making strangers into friends, which is how you define hospitality in the beginning?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right, it is an overused and sometimes pejorative term, right? Like there's a podcast I listen to with Will Arnett and Jason Bateman and Sean Hayes, Hollywood moguls. They're always laughing about the the storyteller, highfalutin storytellers. So the thing is, though, that whether you're a bard, or in Nordic terms a skald, right? The telling stories, that oral tradition, was how we still deliver information. There's a reason why podcasts are compelling, and people perhaps don't read as much as the oral tradition. The ability to evoke and conjure with your words is an important thing. It's part of the fabric of society. And when you were a guest in someone's home, you would be expected to perhaps entertain them with a story, with tales of foreign lands. That exoticism that came from travelers, came from the unknown, came from looking beyond your borders. That was an important part of why people welcome strangers. It was part of the social compact that you would tell a story. So in modern terms, I think that it's great to do that with documentaries or social activations, bite-sized chunks of a story. But whether it's long form or whether it is short form, as long as you can get your point across, and then you can showcase, you can conjure the destination in mind, and you can want to get people to go there, then that's what a storyteller is all about. It's about weaving with the imagination. And if you can convert that to commerce, then the shareholders are all the happier.
Yeah, and that's an interesting. I mean, obviously, that's the business case. You want to turn a profit. You want to delight people and have them keep coming back. The world's a really big place. Walk us through, like, where you focus on creating content as far as regions. Like, how do you pick where? Like, what it makes me think of is that old saying of, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. This little blue and green dot that you talked about floating in the void, how do you pick where to start? And how does an outsider engage with that? And then in the perfect sense, how do you, once you found the place, told the story, attracted the people to learn from it, what's the best outcome for them and you, so that it's a 1 + 1 = 3 where everyone wins?
Yeah. So how do you choose? So if you're commissioning a show, as we do, because again, we're trying to inherit the mantle of the Travel Channel, so we want to create compelling shows with authentic hosts, and that's something that we wrestle with constantly, what the right content mix is. So if you're greenlighting a show, then you are thinking about really the human story and why people want to go there, and whether it is for health and wellness, and whether that's your focus, or whether it is like the sports pilgrimage that I've talked about, whether it is an adventure holiday, or whether it's just the kind of flop and drop stuff, whether it's exploring historical ruins and the background to a place, or whether it's working with the local fishermen on some gastronomic delight. There's all kinds of reasons why people go, and I think that we were recently at WTM, where they have this thing called the Trend Fest, and they list out the reasons why people go and on vacation, and some of them are wellness or gastronomy. So that's one layer.
Okay.
Right? We have to make sure that we have identified the reasons why people go, and they create the right kind of showcase.
So that was super helpful. I never heard of the Trend Fest before.
Yeah.
Okay. So because if travel was its own country, I think you said it would be the 3rd largest country by GDP.
Yep.
Okay. So what's interesting about that, when you go to the Trend Fest, I assume you'll see what the most popular travel destinations and experiences are. And then because you can't do everything, right? You have to focus on what's getting the most eyeballs. So walk me through that inspiration. Like, you walk in there, how do you connect the dots? And then how do you decide which story to tell? Because And then how do you measure success? That's really amazing because it just seems so vast and so difficult to pick where to choose. I'd love to hear like really cool examples of what worked and maybe what you decided not to do.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you talk about the vast complexity of it, because, when my CEO hears this, then he can give me a pay rise. The, the, You're right. The challenge is to boil it down into something that is bite-sized and watchable, because you're going to be making a show that ultimately edits down to a commercial half hour or a commercial hour and run it on our channels. And our channels are, connected TV with Samsung and LG, or on YouTube or on social. And, and again, you're going to cut it down into various different chunks. So you might have a very small social activation, which is 30 seconds long. How do you create a hierarchy that helps tell that story? So let me give you a concrete example. And some of this is led, I should say, by just the commercial reality, right? The commercial reality is that while we are storytellers, we would like those stories to be sponsored. In the same way as that patronage has always been a part of storytelling, right? You were the court poet, you were the head skald, you were part of the king's court. Things have just changed now, so that corporations and DMOs are sponsoring these things. So let me take a concrete example. So,
and before you get to the concrete example, corporations, I'm assuming, could be like Viking Cruise or Marriott or Hilton, or you name the brand. Yes.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, and I don't know what a DMO is, so you have to enlighten me.
Okay, a destination marketing officer. They're what you might call tourism boards, right?
Got
they're
it.
the
Okay.
people. They're the people who represent
London
the country.
yeah,
Or
visit
visit London or
Egypt.
Brand
Yeah.
USA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's take one particular example to kind of put all of this into context. So we work with a PR agency called Fin Partners, and Fin Partners are a global agency that represents lots of these DMOs and brands. And one of the things that happened at WTM, which is World Travel Market, one of the biggest shows with 40,000 people all around the world turning up at London's Excel Centre. With Fin's introduction, we met the Oman Tourism Board, DMO.
Oh.
And Oman, a Middle Eastern country, they've determined that in order to try and drive tourism dollars into their territory, they've done a big partnership with Ironman. So Ironman, the endurance race, it's not something that I'm going to be entering anytime soon. But
don't have a limiting belief, Ian, please. I know you can do it.
Okay, well, my New Year's resolution for 2026 is now sorted. But they've signed on there to try and, it's obviously very beautiful desert, rugged terrain.
Totally.
And perhaps the perfect place to host this competition around tenacity. Anyway, so what we did for them is we said, okay, well, there's any number of show ideas that you could do, from following the athletes, the potential contestants. And we always, there always needs to be a human angle to these things. It can't just be pretty pictures of desert oases. So following the competitors, telling their story as they go from their training regime in their home state to their, of the eventual race. And in the meantime, you can dip into the culture and the geography and tell those stories. So we had put together a program for them, because their desire was to drive people into their country via this mechanism of Ironman. So then that becomes the story that is most appropriate for them. And you could pitch them a story on, the camel safaris that happen, or the religious pilgrimages, but that's not what they've focused on. And so it's our job as, showrunners and storytellers, is to listen to what that tourism board wants to try and focus on, and give them the right kind of story. So there's an element here of, again, the oral tradition, there's an element of improv to all of this, because one of the key things in improv is yes and, right? You never say no. You go,
Right.
oh, I've heard what you say, and then you riff on it. And that's the great thing about TV, is ultimately you can tell any kind of story that you want. Neighboring Saudi Arabia, for example, is very much focused on wellness and spas. It's a very different story that you're going to tell there. So you're going to be looking at luxury hotels. So that's one encapsulation of how we would work with our partners at their request. And then another, give you a couple of other examples of things that are filming very soon and will be launched on the channel. We have a show called Tide, which is hosted by Below Decks chefs, Chef Ben and Chef Rachel. They're you might have seen their show on Bravo, and so they've been hired by a cruise ship company called Sea Cloud. Sea Cloud is a luxury yacht with many berths, and Chef Ben and Chef Rachel and some other chefs over the course of the year, they cook for the guests. Our show Tide is going to follow those chefs and what they do and how they go and source ingredients along the way, as they sail the Caribbean, and bring on board fresh produce. And so you can kind of see the story there. The story is not just, sweating away in the kitchen, or swearing Gordon Ramsay style, but it's interacting with the guests. It's serving these beautiful local meals. It's stopping at each destination port
and learning how to forage or shop for the best produce, or there's no truffles in the Caribbean, but like, just so you get that experience and you're like, oh, I wanted that. And then I know with Below Deck, but you're not bringing along like the conflict and the swinging that might have happened in the Below Deck show. These are just like nautical chefs that have experience delivering amazing recipes and cooking and sourcing foodstuffs to prepare for the guests in different locations. That's super interesting, because I find that, and I don't know if it's as I get older, I love those more experiential travel experiences. Like for a really simple one, we just were in Mexico. We rented a house down there. We had some friends come over. They cooked a dinner for us, but there were some little kids with us, and the woman who was our chef, she was making all these fresh tortillas, and it was just so. She was doing it for us, but I was like, "Hey, can you just teach the kids how to do it?" And then that was such an incredible experience that I'm sure those girls will remember forever, right? Because they got to do that, and I think I prefer trips like this all the time. Like, and now it's making me think. My daughter, she's graduating from high school this June, and she's like, Dad, I want to go hiking in the Dolomites. And I was like, oh wow, okay, great. I want to do that too. I love the idea of walking, and I think that. And now, as I've started to research all that stuff, those types of walking trips, there's so many out there that I might not have actually known about, because I would just want to go and figure it out on my own.
And look, what you're talking about is experiential travel,
Yeah.
right? It's really, evoking the senses, taste and smell in the form of cooking, but your muscles will certainly remember a walking tour, right? It's so these things are all about creating memories.
Yeah.
And some of it is sense memories, and how we've clearly got a visual medium. But when you're creating a show that is about culinary expertise and about local ingredients and about local culture, because food is very much part of everybody's culture, I think that's key. So Tide is going to be hopefully a good show for us. And you're right, it's not reality TV. We're not striving for those that interpersonal drama. We're aiming to showcase how magnificent and tranquil and enjoyable a cruise like Sea Clouds can be, and again looking at the Caribbean place, and then there are shows that we, because the practicalities of this, right, is you can't just send a crew, parachute them onto a ship and then send them out again. What we're trying to do is build economies of scale in the filming. So we've got another show called Borderless Table. It's an extension of one that we've done previously with our in-house production team called Paradise Kitchen. And you can watch all of these previous shows on Journey TV. It exists as a video on demand site, as well as
okay. So question, Ian, because then what are the chef's name on C Cloud? Ian, not
Ben and Rachel.
Ben and Rachel.
Yep.
Ben and Rachel. So if I'm watching this and streaming it and I see it and I click for more info, I can actually research and make a purchase and go have that. But Ben and Rachel might not actually be there. It would be more to go to C Cloud and say, hey, can you replicate this for me? Or can Ben and Rachel be there to cook for us on a trip?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on when they're booked and how long they're booked for. So the C Cloud has a relationship with these celebrity chefs, and they kind of roll on and roll off. So we can film with Ben in January, for example. Rachel is a little bit later in the year, but there are always some kind of high-end Michelin star chef available. So you're getting
a C Cloud. I could do that same trip, and then whoever's the chef on the boat, they could also have an experiential shopping, cooking experience. It might not be Ben and Rachel, but I would have a similar experience. That's really
something.
Because as you're saying, I think back in 2018, I moved out to Vietnam with my family for 3 months. I was opening an office out there and like going to see factories. And one of the coolest things that we did, what I loved about Southeast Asia so much, and the kids were of a great little age, you could get anywhere over the weekend, right? So every Friday we'd fly out to Laos or Cambodia or Singapore or other parts of Vietnam. And I would I'd go searching the internet. Now it's probably easier with AI, but I'd print up Anthony Bourdain's old itineraries from his shows. And we'd go and try and find those little restaurants or street vendors in all these places. But it was difficult. And part of the surprise was I just didn't know what I was getting. But this just seems so much more like frictionless, and you can really, I don't know, see exactly what the experience might be like. Hey, everybody. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. And one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info.
And so let's just pick up on one thing you said there, that it might be easier now with the advent of AI. So one of the things when we're talking content to commerce, right, is you have to create some kind of deep link or some kind of QR code or something that takes you through to where you can find out more information, right? The site where you book C Cloud, for example, right? So there's C Cloud and their site, you watch the show, QR code pops up, find out more. Oh, okay, great. And then I'm going to look into my booking. With what you just talked about Vietnam, there's actually something that we're looking into right now, as a commercial partnership, whereby you can literally sit and watch an episode of any given show that's on Journey TV today and go, and you know how the celebrities work here. The celebrities will take you through all of these different places and they'll give you, oh, this is the local specialty cake, and here's the local specialty drink, and here's this fun ride that we went on, and they give you a little package. You could sit there in the olden days, and you could go, oh, I want to do that. I want to investigate that. I'm going to take some notes. What we're aiming to do is put on a layer of AI that just watches the program and tells you what that exact restaurant was and what that exact address is, what that menu is, and gives you that itinerary. So that would you were you watching for inspiration journey and you watched a certain show and you go, everything that host did will be packaged up for you to emulate or for you to edit into something that was something, a little bit more palatable for you. But if you want to follow in their exact footsteps, then, that's one of the things that we're working on. And that then creates this very compelling call to action, right? You think, I really want to do what they did. They kind of curated this experience for me. Their producers and researchers went out there and said, what's the best that you can showcase in this country, whether it's Oman or Estonia or Bangladesh or wherever. They've done it. And so we translate that into an itinerary. And should you wish to take the pain out of booking your holiday, then you can just press a button and start to make those bookings instantaneously. So that's where we're going.
So I have a question. I have and this is a more of a technological question, because my wife, she does travel consult. She's a fashion stylist. She does travel consulting, and she'll book things for people and make it all happen and do a lot of research. But then sometimes people will just go to Expedia and book whatever. And okay, she missed the opportunity. So it's like it's a leaky system sometimes, right? How do you make sure that you get credit for that original inspiration? Or do you just have a certain bleed off of people who will get the inspiration and go do it on their own? Or how do you make it sticky for them to like stay committed with you through until they click buy?
So again, we harken back to what we talked about the video games industry, and then, and how we layer on some of the learnings that we got from that space into this travel space. I'm not a travel guy, right? I'm a storyteller. But I've come from various digital industries and applying the principles that we learned there into the travel space, which is tiny little bit antiquated in its thinking, right? It's traditional, shall we say. So you're quite, people go to a shopping cart and they browse and they think and they compare prices, and then they go to a trusted name. For example, you mentioned Expedia, as opposed to the smaller sites. They just they want to do what's easy,
margin, right? I'm sure.
And that's a good point, because we can work with hotels directly, and we do. Sea Clouds is an example of that. It's a floating hotel, but some of the advertisers that we've had in the few months that we've been running the channel are just direct mid-tier hotels who want to get their message across without losing the business to the big online travel agencies. Anyway, the point is that there is not quite the instant click gratification when it comes to travel you might get from an Amazon purchase, for example, because you go, I want a new microphone, I'm going to quickly look, okay, I'm going to buy that one because that's the one that's highly rated. You're not going to spend, well, in my case, I didn't spend hours choosing a microphone. I spent minutes choosing a microphone. On a holiday, because it is such an expensive proposition, you're going to spend longer and you're going to shop wider, and you might abandon shopping carts, etc., etc. So you've got to create a framework by which the consumer will feel rewarded and stick with you. And that may well be, again, drawing from the world of video games, that may well be anything from a loyalty system. We talk about viewing miles, parallel to air miles, where you earn from what you've watched and you get a discount on the basis of if you watch and you go through to transactions. It could well be that there's some gamification attached where you get tokens and discounts based upon your activity. So those are the things that we're starting to apply to our experience, which is all about watching and booking and creating that throughput between them. So it's not an exact science, but what you're trying to do is to reward and incentivize people to not leave where you are and go elsewhere. Ultimately, though, it's always going to come down to user experience and trust. If you make a frictionless experience, people will just do it. if you put barriers to entry there, you'll mess them up.
I don't know how you said it, but I think of the real value that I see in this also is, I travel a lot and usually I'm pressed for time. And when I search for the hotel I need, it's like one of the major brands. It comes up in and I book it and I just go. But I find some of my most memorable travel experiences, like in the sense of travel to create memories, are when those are not available or I have to dig a little deeper or something. And for what you're doing to find those like uncovered gems or those hidden gems, right? As far as hotels, floating hotels, restaurants, all of these other things where we're all directed to like the people with the biggest marketing budgets, right?
Yep.
Typically. And I think to be able to dig into that third or fourth page and have those people where it's like owner, operator, run, or there's just some kind of a passion play in that experience. Like I miss 80% of those, I think, because I'm just going in my traveling for just work and life, like the easiest thing. But I think that to be able to give, it's almost like what you're doing with Journey is finding those hidden gems and giving people the courage to try that thing that's sometimes a lot different to have a cool experience.
I do think that there's there's a kind of indie nature to it, isn't there, where you are trying to unlock these experiences and go a little bit deeper, and also to have an element of authenticity. And while I've
Yeah.
talked about AI in the sense there of enabling, the taking the data and delivering an itinerary, I wouldn't want to, and we've certainly got a kind of policy that in terms of creating the content, we don't want to touch
Mm.
AI. We want this to be human-led discovery. And so we want, it's kind of an open casting call for the channel because we want to find, you mentioned Anthony Bourdain, we want to find the next Anthony Bourdain. We want to
Yeah.
find someone who is so expert and so charismatic that they can unlock, I don't know, just that kind of decency of travel, right? Just the humanity that's inherent to make people feel welcoming.
I'm laughing so much right now because I'm like, oh my God, you should totally get a crew and film my daughter and I walking across the Dolomites and me yelling at her to forget her blister and be strong and take the next damn step as I yell at her to Vivian, I love you.
Yeah, shouldn't have packed that in the first place. Why didn't you put
Exactly.
proper shoes there? But the point really is that the journey represents a kind of democratization of this content. The same way, look, YouTube has enabled people all across the world to be influencers and to uh, showcase destinations and be their own uh, spokesperson, own mouthpiece, bring their own unique idiom to things. What so there's people can get their voices out there. What Journey I think does, because it exists on these fast channels, free advertising streaming television, because it exists on Samsung TVs and LG TVs and across the world and on YouTube and on social channels, it just creates a focal point for it all. It collects it, it collates it. It has a business model behind it. It has a sales force behind it. Very difficult for individual contributors and individual voices to operate at the scale.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love how you said how you're like for the C Cloud example, you also you have the crew in to do that one with the chefs, but then maybe another one, I forgot how you said it, but like you're leveraging the time of your crew there to do different shots and pickups and so that you can be efficient in the production as well, but also a higher value production. And that's got to be,
And
is that the biggest challenge on creating the immersive travel content, or is it what's harder, creating the content or actually figuring out what to take that step on to like, to explore?
it's actually been a long time since I've been on a shoot. So uh, I would be disingenuous if I were to say that that was the hardest part, because now my life in management is about coordinating all of these pieces and doing the
Yeah.
deal. However, what I would say is, I mean, you know this just from this podcast. Whenever you're doing anything live and you're recording stuff goes wrong. And whether it's a technical glitch or whether it's a recalcitrant guest or whether it's a host who goes AWOL or a guest who gets drunk, it's just there's all kinds of things that go wrong during the actual filming, and so there's a reason why the phrase "oh, we'll fix it in edit" exists, right?
Well, that's why I'm waiting for someone to leak all of the Apprentice outtakes. Like, that would be so amazing to me. And I know they're sitting in a vault somewhere. That would be really fun to watch.
Yeah, sure. There's all kinds of things that should be perhaps locked away and never
burned.
And burned. Yeah. So and look, the same applies for the travel space. There will be outtakes and bloopers and catastrophes. My only point is that I now just get to hear about the insurance claims afterwards as opposed to experience them.
Well, insurance claims and I don't know, the travesties, I think you said travesties, when the things go really sideways as a traveler, especially with family, it's shitty and stressful as it happens, but those are also the most memorable and loving and incredible memories that I have of traveling with my family, is when the flight gets canceled, you have to string up a hammock between chairs in the airport, or you're caught in some torrential typhoon, and I don't know, you just remember I find that I remember those experiences more than when everything goes perfectly smoothly.
Well, you're a better man than I. That just elevates my stress levels to the point of apoplexy. So yes, I remember them all. I wish that I didn't. Yeah, and look, we were talking with the team during WTM because it was the first time we'd actually got together in person. This is a remote organization to a large part, and you tell war stories, right? That's another thing that people do. Travel stories, war stories. Those are the bits that make you go, well, I'm glad I wasn't on that trip, or there, but for the grace of God, go I. And again, there's an old adage that what was horrific for you is comedy for other people, and vice versa. And that's part of storytelling, right? You can convey the sheer horror of that situation, and other people in retrospect find it funny because at least you survived.
Yeah. And I remember being in where was I? In somewhere outside of Nairobi in Kenya. Karen, I think it's called Karen, Kenya. It's like a suburb of Nairobi. And I remember being at these British expatriates. They probably consider themselves Kenyans, but old, like, imagine Ernest Hemingway and his significant other hosting a party and drinking a lot of gin and tonics. But just hearing them tell their stories of, when I was logging in Uganda and Matilda contracted malaria, like those, again, it must have been horrific and horrible as they were going through it. But then to hear that story probably 40 years later is it's just, I'm transfixed. And he's probably said that story 75 different times, or maybe even more, 1,000 times. But I love hearing about when the train comes off the rails. It's awesome.
I think, I mean, I've experienced.
You don't like the insurance claims.
I've experienced that firsthand. But going back to my honeymoon, which is now many moons ago, but my wife was really keen on going to Morocco, and so we went there. She was, she'd been inspired by, the Essaouira, the blue skies, the white buildings, and she really had this almost tangible feeling for it. And we went there, and then it was a bit of a disaster because let's just say I had an extreme case of indigestion. Viewers can clog their ears in case they don't want to hear any of the gurgling noises. But the point is that it was like we we went there, had that fairly desperate experience, and then we came back, and her father said to her, "Well, you've seen Under a Sheltering Sky, the film with John Malkovich that was set in Morocco, and that was what inspired you to go, wasn't it?" And my wife said, "Oh, I've never seen that film. Why should that wasn't the inspiration." We rented it. We were living in New York at the time, and this was an early version of Netflix. We got the DVD, we put it in, and she watched 30 seconds, and she said, "Oh yeah, I have seen this film." The point being that there's these kind of indelible traces of storytelling all through our existence that lead us to these places that we want to go, and then we wipe our memories clean if they are problematic.
So for a listener or watcher of this, if they wanted to see Journey TV, they could go to the web, they could download the app. I think you mentioned Samsung, right? So you can download it and browse the content. Like walk us through what an ideal newbie coming to Journey TV might experience and how to experience it.
Sure. So you can, yes, watch our travel content. There's hundreds of hours. There's probably 300-ish hours of premium travel content that we've licensed from the best storytellers around the world, and we continue to commission. And so anyone listening to this who has a story to be told or is interested in making one with us, then by all means get in touch. If you are just a viewer, then you can go to journey.tv to watch our video on demand. You can download the iOS or the Android app and watch it on your phone if you're so inclined. If you are a more traditional big screen viewer, you can log onto your Samsung Smart TV, scroll down the menu there and look for Journey in the old school electronic program guide. We're in the process, and it is news that has been released because we've signed a letter of intent to buy the Go USA channels, which are part of Brand USA. Brand USA being the tourism board for the US, right? The biggest DMO in the world.
DMO, I learned.
Yeah, there you go. Because you learn.
Thank you.
You learn, Mr. Faulty. I don't know if you're a Faulty Towers fan, but he was from Barcelona. We're expanding by hopefully acquiring those channels. Lawyers are redlining documents as we speak. And that will give us more distribution. So ultimately, that you can, whether you access it on your phone, your TV, or on your desktop, on your laptop here, you can watch these hundreds of hours. It's all free. It's all ad supported. That's how we make our revenue. So there are ad breaks, but that's just a traditional model, right? The industry, the television industry as a whole, is going back to the tried and tested models of showcasing adverts because people were getting a little bit fed up of subscribing to Disney and to Paramount and to Netflix, and you've got a colossal bill. All of our travel stuff is entirely free. You just have to watch the odd ad, but a contextually relevant ad, I might suggest, because most of our advertising is from those little boutique gems, those hidden destinations who have started to find out about Journey and want to get their message out to your high intent audience. You're not watching travel channels and travel television if you aren't an aficionado of adventure.
Yeah. And super targeted. And that's where those gems can actually get in because they know the demographic, they know who's watching, and it can get served up to you if you got your travel searching mindset on. That's pretty cool. And then can you actually book the trip from there as well? Or is that something you're working towards?
There's a kind of version of it now, but it's not the all singing, all dancing version. Again, NextTrip, the parent company, has nexttrip.com, which is a booking engine where you can book things. It has 5-Star Alliance, which is again another place where you can book premium destinations. So some of the the underpinnings of that content commerce piece exist within our ecosystem already. but we're always aiming to expand them. And the crucial part about Journey is despite the fact the parent company does have a booking engine, we're agnostic. We will work with any platform to showcase their material, to tell their story, and to drive attributable bookings to them. That's the whole reason why this is set up. And we know, so many bookings are made because of video and because of people going, wow, I want to see that for myself, or I want to participate in that for myself. So, we'll dig you up the Dolomites, the stuff that we've done on that. I'm sure someone's been there, and we'll send it to you and see if you get inspired.
Oh, good. Yeah, my daughter is really pushing me to book. So I think there was one slot left on this one trip. So I need to get that done today, actually. If people wanted to learn more about you or find Journey or experience it, and learn more about the company, what's a good way for them to do that?
So journey.tv is a good link to start with. That will give you the access to the video on demand site, which is watch.journey.tv. The parent company, NASDAQ company, like I said, NTRP is the ticker, and nexttrip.com is the home for that. So plenty of places. Or if you're watching TV or you've got your phone out, go to the App Store, go to the Android store, download the app, and sit back, relax, watch, and maybe book a trip or two.
Love it. And get inspired to book your next trip. Because I don't know, I think that there's so many people who just don't have the opportunity or the time or the inclination to travel. But I just find travel's just been such a part of our family and my experience that I find it keeps feeding my curiosity and keeps, I don't know, making me feel connected to the world and to people, and just gives really good stories to tell about contracting malaria in Uganda.
And that goes back to what we talked about at the beginning, right? Your podcast, Defining Hospitality. It has to be, the world has to open its mind to all of these different cultures and approaches to life. Walking a mile in another man's shoes, there's a reason for that proverb, right? It helps you understand people. It helps you foster brotherhood or sisterhood. It helps you embrace this magnificence of the planet and the people that are on it. We should cherish that. Hospitality, turning strangers into friends, has to be a key tenet for everybody, especially in these somewhat benighted times.
Love it. Strange. And you brought it full circle back to strangers into friends. So that is a testament to your storytelling craft.
Exactly. Beginning, middle, and end. And you always do a callback.
I love it. Well, Ian, I'm so grateful that we connected and then I got to hear about this, and I'm definitely going to go check it out. And I'd suggest all of our listeners to check it out as well. I'm excited. And maybe you can film some content of my daughter yelling at me or me yelling at my daughter. I think that would be really fun.
Like I said, we're always keen to find the next Anthony Bourdain, and we may well have just done a perfect casting call here.
Perfect. An unintended interview. So I thank you so much. And thank you for sharing this. And I wish you the best of success. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to all of our listeners, if this changed your way or thinking about how to experience hospitality or experience the world, or you know someone who could benefit from it, please pass it along. Don't forget to like and subscribe because it goes a long way. We grow by word of mouth mostly. And thank you. I appreciate you, and we'll catch you next time.